Welcome back to my channel, guys. It's your boy Zach about to attack another review. This time it's Netflix's new series, Jupiter's Legacy. While watching this series, it really made me question, am I experiencing superhero TV show and movie fatigue? Let's talk about it. Let's start with the show. Netflix says the show's about. It says it's about the first generation of superheroes passing down the torch to their children, who's going to take up the mantle. But as tensions rise between the heroes and the villains, new rules start coming about. And I think that is a really great description of the show. There's a lot of other things going on in the story that are like subplots, but that's the main through line through the whole show. The main thing that's looming over the show. The new generation, the millennials, basically questioning what the older superheroes are doing and saying, are your codes archaic? Is it going to work anymore? And I think that that's a question that's been asked in a lot of superhero media. Recently we've seen it where people were up in arms with Batman versus Superman, with Batman killing. People wondering why would they have a character like that killing, because he's known from almost in his inception to not kill. The first generation superheroes in this world passing on their legacy to their children and the new superheroes around them, and trying to make sure they keep up the moral code that they've been holding since the 1930s, which is very interesting because the first superheroes were made around the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, and a lot of their codes was not to kill, be upstanding citizens, be better than the villains, be inspirations for the normal people. But now that we're in a different age, especially now, a lot of those codes don't work anymore because the villains don't uphold the same standards as the villains as before. They're not just robbing banks or trying to steal money. They're murdering. And now the heroes are questioning, or the younger heroes are questioning, should we be doing that too? Why are we standing there and letting our friends and family get murdered and this person gets to live another day? And they're the one that's supposedly the villain. And the older heroes are specifically the leader of the older heroes, they're called the Union, is saying that the code is needed more because the way the world is divisive. It feels like this show is set in today's climate. There's a lot of conversations about the things that are going on in the show's world, and it reflects on the world today. Nazis running around the streets, people hating each other and attacking each other randomly, economy being down, and people being unemployment. Little conversations like that these heroes are talking about, where they feel like they need to uphold the standards that they've been holding for all these years. It needs to be upheld with the children. So I want to talk about the good of the show. What did I like? And I think that the story was uniquely told. This is the first, specifically the origin story. A lot of times in these superhero products, the origin story is like, oh, this person found a rock, or this person's an alien, or this person was zapped by lightning. This one was broken up through each episode, and it was a heroic, harrowing journey. It wasn't something simple. People died on the way. People went crazy. The people who became the heroes, the ones that are the first generation of heroes, went through a lot to get their powers, to the point where they feel like they are the chosen ones because a lot of people before them tried and died. In their mind, they have the right to set the rules and set the standards, even though that's kind of like how in real life, the past guard goes through so much. But the newer people, they see things differently. They want to push things forward in a different direction. They're not realizing what the people in the past went through, so that they have the freedom to do that. So it's that constant struggle between the older and the newer heroes in the show, just like how it's something like how things are going in real life. You can think about like the Senate. There's the older people in the Senate and the younger people, and they're trying to push the Senate forward, and the older people are trying to keep it the way it is. And I think that's a good way to think about the superhero team in this show. They run things like they are politicians, kind of constant conversations about what is going on, and meetings and things like that. And a lot of the conversations are pretty interesting. Like I said, they're talking about the state of the world. If heroes should kill, if there's a villain going around that won't stop, keeps escaping from jail, should at one point we should stop them and save all these people that they could potentially kill, other heroes and family members they should kill? Or should we uphold this code of not to kill, because then it makes you not no better than the villain? It's that struggle is one of the major themes in this show. And I think one of the themes that I like other than that was the thought of legacy. A lot of people know how that feels, where parents, if they're successful, push you to be as successful or even better than them. And that's something that's strong in the show. The character Utopian, his real name is Sheldon. He's the main character. He's the anchor of the show. He's pushing his son Brendan. He wants him to be the next him, but he wants him to be even better. He feels like he's going to be stronger, faster, and more capable than he ever was. But Brendan is struggling with that because of the things I was talking about earlier in terms of does the code work anymore? There's a tragedy that happens in the end of the first episode that makes him question everything. And his father feels like he's starting to lose him. And he's scared about that because he also has a sister. Brendan has a sister, and that sister has long forgotten the code and has gone off. She doesn't even want to be a superhero anymore. So he sees what can happen. He doesn't want that to happen to his son, so he's holding on tight. But this is more of like a character study of what would happen to a character that was like Superman or Captain America that doesn't bend, sticks to what they believe in so tightly that they start alienating the same people that they want to help. That's what Utopian is doing. He's holding so tight to his code and his values and how he sees the world. He's not seeing that the world has changed, and he needs to listen to what the people are saying and maybe consider what are the other options. Maybe we might need to bend the code a little bit because it's clearly not working, because these young heroes are out there risking their lives, believing your code, trying to not hurt anyone and are dying. There are a lot of deaths in this show that are happening because the heroes continue to try to be the better person. It was held down by the big three in the present and the big four in the past. The big three in the present is Utopian, who's the leader of the union. It's like their Justice League in this universe. All the original heroes are the leaders of this group. His wife, Lady Liberty, and Brainwave, who's the brother of Utopian. They all have different ideals. Utopian fully believes in the code. Brainwave, not so much, but because his brother is the leader, he follows along, and his wife is kind of stuck in the middle. She wants to stand by the side of her husband, but she doesn't fully agree with the way he goes about things because of the incident that happens in the first episode, at the end of the first episode. So that dynamic is very interesting, and it's progressed throughout the series. And they are in the past episodes because the show shifts between 1930s and I'm presuming 2020 or 2021. In the past, they show them they didn't even know each other. But the thing about Utopian and why he sticks to these things is because the way they got their powers is because he had these powerful visions after the passing of his father, and it led them to where they got their powers. And since he feels like he's the chosen one, he feels like everybody that was around him is the chosen one. They should make these decisions. And they fully agree with him back in the 1930s. Now that they're in the present time, things are starting to get shaky because the younger heroes are trying to do things differently. All the different characters bring a little different things in terms of the action. Sheldon, who's Utopian, is the Superman-like character. He has a lot of invulnerability, heat vision, he can fly, super strength. Lady Liberty is kind of like a Wonder Woman kind of character. She kind of has similar powers to Utopian, but seems to be faster, more agile. And Brainwave, he's not more of a hand-to-hand kind of fighter. He's more of like a Charles Xavier, like the X-Men, Professor X. He controls the mind. He can see he can hear what you're thinking. He can tell your brain to stop breathing. Turn that part of your brain off. He's a very dangerous hero. But obviously he holds himself back because he is upholding his brother's code. The legacy aspect of it, it's the gray area of everything, is because they go, like they said, they're going back and forth with that they should kill, but they're showing so many examples because of the incident that happens at the end of the first episode that I don't want to spoil. The villains start upticking their violence. They're not upholding the standard. It seems like you wouldn't kill a hero. You would just incapacitate them, do what you got to do, and move on. Now they're upright just murdering superheroes. And now the public is saying, we're not feeling safe. And if these people are going to commit crimes and commit murder, maybe you do need to murder them. And that's something that I think that in 2020, 2021, 2022, majority of the country would feel that way. Majority of the country in the real world, the death penalty. And their belief that in this show, they believe that these superheroes should just take out these dangerous villains so they cannot harm anyone ever again. Like I said, the thing that I love about this character, Utopian, is a really good character study of somebody that went through a lot of trauma, blinded by his mission because of the trauma, and not listening to anybody else. and pushing his beliefs on people and not bending. And he's now alienating the same people that he chose to protect, even his family, to a point where him and his wife get into a serious argument, and it seems like there's some dissension. She's going the opposite of him when he's displaying his plans in front of the rest of the union, which is their Justice League, and it's really hurting his stature because she's not standing beside him. She used to be this reporter, this person that questioned everything, looked for the truth, and along the way she lost herself because she was supporting her husband so much. So there's that tension there too. It's everything stems from this character Utopian, where the way he believes is just causing tension with everybody else. So it's all the interactions are great. And one thing that I have to say that was really good, it was the cliffhangers. Every time, this is a show, it doesn't have a ton of action in it, even for a superhero show, but it's a lot of family drama, a lot of conversations about what we should do and the different elements that are going on with different characters. But towards the end, there's always a revelation that kept me going, okay, I need to see how that unravels the next episode, and it kept me going, especially the ending of episode 1. I think when people see the ending of episode 1, because of that conversation about the code and how we have to uplift it, what happens at the end of episode 1 is really, really like a shock, almost like the reverse of if you've seen the show Invincible. The ending of that is kind of like the reverse of that. Let's talk about the bad. I think the first episode, even though I keep talking about that great ending and cliffhanger, I think the first episode is poorly structured in terms of how they put certain scenes and what they left out. Because of what the tragedy that happened at the end of the first episode, some of the gravitas of it is lost because they didn't focus so much on some of the people that were there. When they show up, you're like, who are these people? Yeah, okay, they're friends, but I don't have any attachments to them. So when something happens, it kind of just like, okay. But it's supposed to be bigger because the follow-up episode, you're supposed to be feeling bad for the remaining heroes. So, but you never got attached to the people that are now gone. So I think that if they would have focused more on the relationships in the present with the new heroes, the younger heroes, and their relationship, the ending of the first episode and the episode overall would have benefited more from that. I think another thing with the first episode, which is really weird because you really want to start strong with the first episode, especially on a Netflix series where they drop all the episodes, is that the dialogue was a little wooden, and some of the acting felt a little bit off, and it didn't happen for the rest of the series. So I don't know if they were trying to rush things for the first episode, or I had to go back and re-record lines, but things just felt a bit off to the point where I didn't know if I was going to keep going until that end happened. And then the follow-up episodes, the acting and the dialogue started getting better. Another thing, like I said, there's a lot of conversation about the code, about what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. Have I lost this person because of all this death that's happening? Should I agree with my husband because I've been doing that for whatever amount of years, because these people age very slow. But it gets a little repetitive throughout the episodes, especially since they don't do it in very interesting ways all the time. A lot of times it's either they're standing in the kitchen, or they're in a closed off room, or they're in a hallway, and it's constant back and forth conversation about the same thing over and over from different characters, and there's no progression in what's happening. If it was each time this conversation came up, there was a little bit of progression of what they were going to do, it would have helped the show a lot. It was kind of like you're at a standstill. Okay, again, you're talking about the code. What are we going to do now? Where's the action at? And I think that the show would have done better if they focused a little bit more on what was going on in the streets with the heroes when they were patrolling and having those conversations at the same time. There's a scene where they do lose a hero later on in the series where a hero does get killed, but we get dropped in the middle of it. We don't see why they're fighting the supervillain. We don't see what the supervillain does to the hero. We just see that the villain is incapacitated and the hero is down. And I think that if those scenes were extended and breathed a little bit more, it would have helped the show more, because it would have had a more balance of conversation, drama, and then superhero action. I think that's where the show falters a little bit, and it might lose some people. I think the VFX and the CGI are pretty good, especially the practical effects. But anything they do when it comes to like energy blast, or there's an episode where somebody's like can teleport from one spot to another, and they kind of show where she is when she teleports, it looks really bad. Anything dealing with energy blasts and a fire coming out of somebody doesn't look that great. It looks CW bad, which is sad because the show is shot gorgeously. It looks really good, especially when I was watching on my TV. Some of the VFX look a little wonky. And some of the times when people are flying and there's multiple people, you can't see the wire, but it kind of, you can tell that they're on a wire, and it kind of breaks you out of the immersion a little bit. So if that's something that this show needs to work on if it gets to season 2, is to kind of hide those things. So I'm not even a trained eye, so and I saw that. So most people will see those things and it might turn them off. Let's talk about the ugly. These characters got their powers in the 1920s, and they were already grown adults within their 30s at that point. And now it's 2021. And obviously they should be much older, but it seems because of the source of their powers, it ages them much slower. But the makeup that they use to age them, except for the character Brainwave, he actually looks almost like he looks much older. He does look like the older version of himself. But the other characters don't look. They have like gray hair, and they kind of try to put the wrinkles in their face, but they don't look the age that they're trying to portray them. It's like this weird thing. It's like it looks like younger people wearing makeup for a costume for older, trying to look older. It doesn't look like people who are actually aged up and older. Not as good as in the end of Avengers Endgame, where Steve Rogers came back after going back in time, and he kind of like Joe Biden, to be honest. Didn't look that great, and it kind of threw me off a little bit. I got used to it because I was so engrossed in the story, but that is something that is a little weird and it was never explained. It's still overall a good series, and like I said, there's some repetitive parts, but they didn't execute all the things that were going on and wrap it up well enough for maybe some people to feel like they want to continue on or feel satisfied when they get to the end. So let's talk about my verdict. I rate things on a must-watch, watchable, wait and see, or pass. I think the show is a wait and see. Nothing in here is revolutionary or like action that's like, oh, you got to see that action scene. I think it's a pretty good show, but I think most people might get turned off by some of the repetitive conversations and some of the VFX problems. If you're very interested in the themes of the show, I think this is going to be a really good show for you to watch. But if you don't care about any of those things, you don't care about character study of superheroes, and you just want to see cape shit, like superheroes, going on about their day, or like an overarching story that leads into something, and at the end it tells a full story from back to front, then you can wait on this show. If you're a fan of the comic that this comes from, tell me how you feel about this show. Tell me about the changes that happen. Let me know how you feel about what I thought was good, what I thought was bad, or things that you feel like it needs to be improved. Please like, comment, share the video, and I'll see you later. Peace.